What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Visionary Rhetoric Podcast. I hope you're doing well. I hope that your family is doing well. And I hope that the things that you see throughout your day do not get you down too much. I know there's a lot going on. We're in full steam ahead with this election cycle. And a lot has happened over the last week. Today, I am recording on the 19th of July, 2024. And in the last week, we've seen what is called an attempted assassination on the former president of the United States, 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And so we saw that, and we saw the aftermath of people and their thoughts and opinions, some very, kooky, and some are like, well, if you just think about it, or the history of our nation and the history of how things are done here, it's not outlandish to start to kind of question or at least ponder what is actually at play here. And so we've seen these things happen. We see how people have responded to them. And, in the midst of all of that, we have the RNC, right? Where all the Republicans are coming over and are coming together and putting their support behind Donald J. Trump unabashedly, and just voicing their passionate commitment to making sure that he is the 47th president of the United States. And so, we had that happen. People like Amber Rose, who has explicitly said that she doesn't see herself as black, but as biracial, which is fine. That's to each their own. But she was definitely a DEI guest. A DEI guest speaker. And so it's funny because this group has touted themselves as the destroyers of DEI, yet they go and get someone who's racially ambiguous in many cases, but has been heavily associated with the black community, given all of that. And so this is not a degradation of her saying that she's not black. She has every right to say that. Her father, like she said, is a white man. And so she doesn't feel like it's fair to call herself just black, because it would be denying the fact that her father is a white man and that is a part of who she is. I know biracial people. I'm very close with a biracial, at least someone, or I don't know. I can't remember if she chooses biracial or mixed off the top of the head, because it's so many people go in different directions. Some people say biracial because they might be white and black, and they're just using that. Some people say mixed because race doesn't necessarily even describe, who they are, because if they know the specific nations and the ethnicities that they come from, then they can see that it's just not white and black, but it could be like Italian, German, and Nigerian. It could be, you know what I mean? So some people, they have different reasons for saying different things, and I respect it. So what I'm saying right now is not about that. The fact of the matter is, for a long time, Amber Rose has been accepted in the black community and in hip hop culture, particularly surrounding her looks and just the aesthetics and the desirability. And so when you hear her in the past say, I'm not black, I am biracial, and kind of making a distinction, you kind of feel like, why do you have to make such a hard distinction about that? Why are you so almost like offended that somebody said you were black? But that's neither here nor there. I think it's her right to identify as she pleases regarding her ethnic and her racial makeup. Anyway, so that happens. Hulk Hogan gets on there, and he's like, brother, he survived the shot, brother, and he did that. And he rips the shirt. First of all, I've always hated the way that him and Randy Macho Man said brother. There's just something about dudes that look like they're in a biker gang saying brother that way with that hard R at the end. You get the picture. I don't have to go in too far about that, but just all of the theatrics. Somebody even pointed out, this feels like WWE, right? Doesn't feel real. Like we're looking at the RNC. We see, Snowman, Trump's son, Snowman. Some of you'll get that reference, but we see him get up there and he's all made up. And I saw somebody do a video talking about him because he did a video doing his makeup before the event. And he said, I usually don't do this, but when you're going to be in HD, you got to get it done. And so the guy goes on, and this is a guy who played Tum Tum on Three Ninjas. Some of y'all might know that's a blast from the past, but he played Tum Tum on Three Ninjas. He points out And I said the wrong thing. Tum Tum was the baby. He played Rocky. No, he didn't play Rocky. He played it's Rocky, Tum Tum, and Colt. He played Colt. That's what it was. So, there's a thing, this guy, he plays Colt on Three Ninjas. That's a blast from the past for some of y'all. Deep nostalgia. And that's one of the segments I actually want to start adding. Going forward, and I'll do it at the end, I'll kind of talk about how I'm going to be going forward and some of the kind of layout and stuff that I want to do. Because up until now, you've been kind of just joining me in my ADHD riddled mind. I like to talk about a vast array of topics. So I think I've been pretty organized by showing the video, talking about it, but it's been such an array of topics. I kind of want to hone it in and give a little more structure to what I'm doing, as much as I love to shoot from the hip. And I think, it's pretty cool. Matter of fact, give me feedback on that. Do you think I should do that or not? And I'll re-ask this question at the end. Do you think I should structure it more, or do you like my format? Is it fresh? Is it something that's different? Because I feel like I don't want to over sanitize what this looks like, because I think there are a lot of podcasts that are already over sanitized and super, super, super academic in nature, stat driven. They got to show you the points and the stuff. Then you got the ones that are really a lot of feelings driven, ideas, thoughts. I think I kind of bring the happy medium, because I'm showing you stuff that lines up with what I'm talking about. But moving right along, we get that. We get the Hulk Hogan stuff. We get the Amber Rose. We get the Hulk Hogan stuff. All Snowman, Trump. We see all this stuff, and it's very theatrical. One thing that somebody pointed out, and to finish that thought, the dude that played Colt on Three Ninjas, not Colts, but Colts. Two different ways I'm saying that. But he says, it's funny, they talk bad about like anything about a man doing something that's related to femininity or women. And so makeup would be that, right? So as much as they talk so bad about it, he's sitting here getting his makeup done. So is him showing this and allowing, and then going in front of people to read off a teleprompter. Is that a correlation between when they have drag queens read to children in libraries and things like that? And he kind of goes on a tangent about that, which was an interesting correlation, because that is something that has gotten people up in arms, right? And I'm not here to even make a statement on that or not. I don't think it's important for me to make a statement on whether or not drag queens should be reading books to children. I just don't think it's important for me to make a statement either way. For me, it's like, I don't have a problem with people being a drag queen, and people do that in public, right? So for me to act like that's not happening in the world and that my children won't have to interact with that in any way would be disingenuous at best. And so for me, it's just preparing my children to navigate a world that's diverse. Because whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, this is a diverse world. People believe and feel differently than you believe and feel. And so at the end of the day, you cannot control anybody else. All you can do is teach your children and train yourself on how to respond to these things that are realities. Doesn't matter if you think it's a false reality. It doesn't matter if you think it's off. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. It's a reality. It's happening. So you can say all you want to say about people who are part of the LGBTQ, people who are cross-dressers, people who engage in drag queen activities. You can say whatever you want about the people. It's happening. It's real. So the question is, how are you going to respond to it? Are you going to be hateful, or are you going to be caring and loving to a human being? That's the question you have to ask yourself. That's what you have. Choose what you want to choose, but also don't think that there won't be consequences for the way you choose. And I'm not talking about being politically correct. I'm talking about being a human, a decent human being who loves and cares for all people. That's my choice. I don't want to be right so much that I'm pushing or excluding people away from me. I want anybody who lives any kind of way, thinks, believes, feels any kind of way to be able to have a conversation with me. I'd rather that than to put it in a position where you're shutting people off, you're excluding people, you're ostracizing someone, You're demonizing someone, and you don't even really know that person's story and journey. You don't even know anything about what maybe you disagree. You really don't know much about what you disagree about, other than you disagree with it, which is fine. But don't make it like everybody else has to feel the same way or there's something wrong with them. Because I'm sure I could look at your life and find something about the way you think, believe, your philosophies, whatever, your theories, that I believe is off. And then if I take that and say, I'm going to demonize you. Now, there are some instances when you talk about human rights, when you talk about oppression, exploitation, that are just inherently just wrong. We have universal truths. But there are some things that it's just like, do you want to shut people off, or do you want to have people feel like or believe or just let them know that you're there for them in any capacity because they're human and you're human too? Like I said, we're not talking about the universal things that you can think of that are just completely wrong. You know what I mean? We're talking about the things of people saying, this is what I believe. This is what I feel. This is what my experience is. Are we going to cut people off because we don't agree with those things? Or are we going to leave a bridge, an open door, whatever it is, so that we can have common unity? And that's all community is, common unity. So, moving right along, we'll jump right into an RNC moment.
I'm wearing a bandage on my right ear and standing in solidarity with President Trump.
And we want him to know that we are going through this with him, that we honor him, that we respect him, we're behind him, we're in it for the fight, and we just want to show our solidarity to let him know, President Trump, you are not alone.
Yo. Yo, that is crazy. That is crazy work. I hope that none of y'all family members is at the RNC with a bandage on their ear. That's crazy work. I don't think it's funny for anybody to have their an attempted assassination on themselves. I don't think that's funny. I think it's hilarious. And then one of the people say it's giving colt. That's what they said in the comments. One of the people, it's giving colt. That's crazy. That is crazy. And then somebody else commented, how did the party of I don't care about your feelings get into this boo-hoo, thing? Or actually it says, I don't care about your feelings, but now they're into look at my boo-boo. That's funny, but I'm not laughing at the attempted assassination. Don't take it as that. What I'm laughing at is just what they said. This is the party that talks about, liberals being too into feelings, millennials. They love to call everybody millennials. I feel like boomers, conservative boomers, think that everybody after them, or let's just say I think they give Gen X some credit because some of them straddle the line, but a lot of them think that everybody after Gen X is a millennial. They don't realize like there's new generations that are happening, right? So like they would lump my son who's 4 in with me as a millennial. Just like, millennials, man, they such and such and such and such. Then we're not all, first of all, everybody you're pointing to is not a millennial. If they're born after 96, they're not a millennial. They're a Gen Z. Then Gen Z goes to a point, and now we have Alpha, right? Alpha, I believe my son and daughter are a part of Gen Alpha. There's been, since baby boomers, there's been X, millennial, Z, and now Alpha is on the scene. They're still young. They're kids and babies, but they're on the scene. But if you talk to a conservative, baby boomer who just likes to keep things so simple, it's just simple. Men are men, women are women, and everybody after us, except for Gen X, is a millennial. And they like to drink Starbucks, and they got their gadgets and their iPads, and that's the problem. That's why they're poor. That's why they can't buy houses. Everything's so simple and it's just reductionist, right? You got these people, and I'm keeping these videos playing silently next to me for some of these segments, but you got these people on here, and they're just, we want to stand in solidarity with Trump. We put the bandage on to let him know we're standing with him. Honestly, if he was shook up, it didn't last long, because if you listen to some of what he was talking about after and him getting into Biden being the worst president, and if you stacked up all the worst presidents before President Biden, together, he would be the worst by far, even with all the bad things they did. He went into that again. So just when we thought there was going to be some humility, just when we thought there was going to be some empathy and compassion and just some soberness out of this man, you know, they attempted to kill you. They attempted to assassinate you. And we thought, and he had kind of a demeanor about him that was going to be like, you know, I'm humble now. And he even started off like that. But you can't help yourself when you're an arrogant, wealthy person. You can't. Who feeds off of power, who feeds off of you're looking up to me. And so you got those people, those crazy Trumpsters looking up to him, and they're saying all these, we want to stand in solidarity, and he's the best president who's ever been in this country, and forget their whole history, right? They're saying Trump is a better president. And these are people, and I said Trumpster on purpose. I know somebody's going to be offended by that. I said Trumpster on purpose because in reality, from what I see, when we look at the Republican Party and we see from when he ran before and he's running now, they really didn't want him. They were hoping that by some stretch of their imagination that he just wouldn't want to run at this point. But why wouldn't he want to run? He has a following, and I know the person is giving cold. I don't want to put that out there, but he has a following that is behind him 100% of the way. And what the Republicans realize, and this is me using observational skills based on the things that I've seen, is that we can't force them out. If they thought that they could force them out and that most of the party would stay with them, they did. But see, so many people who were more like moderate as a conservative, so like those who would be willing to work across the aisle and those who are really looking for mostly looking for the best interest of the people, some of them got bought out. Like his vice president was against him. The person he chose for his vice president candidate was against him. But all of a sudden now, this is my vice president candidate. What happened? What happened to you standing against them? I don't understand it. But hey, I mean, people change for different reasons. I'm assuming money probably has to do with it. I'm assuming access. I'm assuming feeding off of Trump as a candidate and feeling like this will give me a shot. It gives me a position to get in here. So maybe he does something totally different if he ends up becoming president. Talking about Trump's vice president candidate that he chose, a running mate that he chose for this time. But just the sheer fact of what happened with Pence, anybody with reasoning skills should be like, you know what? It's probably not a good idea to run next to him or on his ticket unless I'm going to follow suit with everything that he says, everything that he thinks, and really just stay lock and step with the things that he does. It might not make sense to run with him because I see what happened. He almost like basically fed Pence to the lions. You know what I mean? He almost fed him to the lions. People actually died that day. So when we look at it, I don't know if I'm a conservative Republican politician, I don't know if I'm taking that because I see how you did the last guy that ran with you. So I don't even want no parts of that. But I just found it interesting. They really wearing a bit. Yo, and somebody said this is like somebody else said this feels like that whole Nelly era where Nelly wore the Band-Aid and people started to wear it as a fashion statement. It is. It's that same energy for a different reason. Of course, this is that solidarity thing, and this is the party of the people who like feelings. We didn't have all these feelings back in the day, and we made it. We were good old American people. We did it, right? But literally, they're like, we got to stay in solidarity with Trump. He almost lost his life, and all that. And it's just like, all right, but that's not y'all energy. So don't get mad when people are like calling that out. You know what I mean? On to the next candidate.
Associated Press sources have confirmed that both former President Barack Obama and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have expressed concerns about Joe Biden's candidacy. Pelosi warned Biden that staying in the race could prevent Democrats from winning the House in November. Other influential Democrats, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, have also expressed their concerns. So far, Biden has insisted he's not backing down.
I am running and going to win again.
His campaign also says they're not working through any scenarios where he is not the top of the ticket. Some national polls do show a close race, but a new AP NORC poll found nearly 2/3 of Democrats want Biden to withdraw. And many of them are hoping Biden will use time off the campaign trail after testing positive for COVID-19 to reassess his future.
Yeah. So that's where we are now, right? We got the Republicans, they're showing a sign of strength, right? They're like, yeah, we're showing a sign of strength. We're with our candidate, even if they don't agree. Much like many other groups across our nation, they stick by their people. And so the Republicans are showing that, whereas now we have even Barack Obama, who I think maybe as soon as maybe or as near as maybe a couple weeks ago was saying that that kind of talk was dangerous and ridiculous and that Democrats need to get behind Joe Biden instead of putting out there that we're going to back out of this or we're going to switch candidates. We need to change the messaging back to supporting Joe Biden. Now he's even said it. Nancy Pelosi's even said it. And to me, she's more maverick in her demeanor and nature, that it's interesting that she's even saying it, because typically she'd be the one that would be kind of calling people back to the mission. Like, hey, y'all are getting distracted. Let's get back to supporting Biden. Let's get back to beating Trump with Joe Biden, as opposed to talking about we might need another candidate. And so in reality, the Democratic Party is showing that there are some weak links. There are some holes, some gaps that need to be filled in the way that we move. And when I say we, I'm speaking as if I'm the Democratic Party, all of the government. They're showing that right now. And so even if in reality, Joe Biden and his administration is a better fit for our nation at this time and the things that we're going through, even if that is the reality, the optics don't show that, because there's divisiveness amongst the party. There's a lot of people saying, apparently there's donors too that have spoken out and said, listen, we can't get behind Joe. So we need to, I think they specifically said we need to put Kamala up as the candidate and get a new vice presidential candidate. But we can't get behind. I'm talking about, when I say donors, I'm talking big donors, people who are giving big money, who are saying that this needs to happen in order for us to feel confident about November. And so to see that and see that now Obama and Pelosi have kind of shifted, it makes sense. It makes sense because, you know, Wu-Tang said it best, Cream. Cash rules everything around me. So, you know, Wu-Tang said it best. So you see, if the money start talking, all of a sudden now it goes from being a ridiculous thing to, I think he needs to decide to do it. I do think that he has to decide to do it. They can't force it. And they can't, because he's the president too right now. So they can't force him anyway, but it can't look like a strong arm. It has to look like a well thought out decision that Joe Biden actually made, as opposed to we forced him out. Because if it's a we forced him out, then that's going to make us look really, really bad. If I'm if I'm part of the Democratic Party in the sense of being a government and being in the administration, that makes us look bad. And if I'm Republican, I'm over here like, yeah, they going to crumble all by themselves. We ain't even got to work that hard. And we're already getting the things done. I think that's the other reason why Republicans haven't been fighting really against Trump, It's not because that most of them agree with him. It's the fact that he has the popularity. All of the fanatics, all of the radicals agree with him. The radicals and the fanatics don't necessarily agree with the Republican Party because the Republican Party is conservative. Radicals and fanatics are not conservative. They might be conservative in certain areas, like fiscally. They might be conservative when it comes to anything that has to do with sexual orientation and just rights regarding who you can and can't be with. They may be conservative there, but they're very radical in idea. I mean, like QAnon, like that's a radical, fanatical kind of thing, right? And those people are definitely, and Trump has even espoused these things that they think about, and it's really a dog whistle. I don't know if Trump really is on board with a lot of the things he talks about. This is a man who is very notorious for a lot of different things, one of them being the way he interacts with women over the history of his life. And one of the things that sticks out to me is funny because they point to the Bible, evangelicals point to the Bible for the reason why Trump is the one who, anyone who says they believe in God and follow Christ should be supporting Trump. But they overlooked his infidelities throughout his different marriages. The fact that he has not done well in marriages, just all of the things that are, glaringly noticeable. He's a haughty man, prideful. I mean, there's so many things that just a few things you can point from the Bible and say, oh, okay, cool. You can also go to the Bible and say, oh, he is a habitual line stepper over. He habitually steps over lines when it comes to these things. He has, in the way he thinks. And there's so many reasons not to support him. There's so many reasons to reprimand, rebuke this man, but none of them will do it. And that's why I think the Republican Party, who trends more moderate and conservative, has gotten behind them, is just because of the fanatical radicals that they need to stay in for the numbers, and so they can continue to get what they're getting done. Amanda Seales said it, and I think I played this clip. They've been getting done their agenda all through Biden's administration. They don't need Donald Trump in reality. But that just puts the cherry on top. If you like a cherry on top of your sundae, that's what that is. If that would mess your day up, not to have the cherry on top of your sundae, it's the same idea as for those who really support Trump. If he's not in office come November after the vote, it's going to mess their day up. It's the same thing with the cherry on top. If you don't get the cherry on top of your sundae and that's your thing, it'll mess the day up. The Sunday, that is. But anyway, the Democrats are looking very divided right now. You got some who are like
must no longer.
You got some who, Anyway, the Democrats are looking very divided right now. You got some who are just like, fall in line, get behind Biden, support him, let them know that we're here, let the people know we're standing together. Then you got others who are like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We need a new candidate. We don't believe that Biden can beat Donald Trump. And that debate kind of started that. And then you go forward, and then now he's sick, which people get sick. But everything that's happening with him, he called the president of Ukraine, Putin. He called Kamala Harris Trump. It's everything that is happening as after the debate that's making this look so bad. And I don't know. It doesn't look good. I can admit that somebody who does not want a scenario where Trump is in office, because I already see what the Supreme Court is doing. I already see what the plans are with Project 2025. I already see what Agenda 47 is and how connected to Project 2025 is. I already see some of Trump's former senior advisors as a part of the Heritage Foundation, and as a result, the people who put together Project 2025. I already see the threat to civil rights. I already see the threat to just education, because now all of a sudden they're licking their chops. They're it's like Pavlov's dog. It's like they heard the bell and now they're drooling. They're like, we're going to get education. The education reform we want, which is school choice as a part of it and school vouchers as another part of it. And what people don't understand, I'm going to stop and pause there real quick. What people don't understand is, and I had a conversation with a friend about this, and he thinks school choice is a fresh start or doing something different. He feels like the way we've been trying to do it is repeating. And so I respect that and I understand where he's coming from. That's my good brother. I don't even got to say no names. He'll probably end up on the podcast. We like to have a lot of dialogue, especially like over certain videos and things like that. But we got to chatting, and his whole thing is, I just feel like we've been doing the same thing and our children have just been being left behind. This could be something new. I know that, one, this whole idea is not a new idea. They've been trying to push this for a long time. The problem is, like I mentioned, I think 2 episodes ago about school vouchers, is it's always going to get used for things that are not necessarily related to actual school. Like they found out one of the things that people were using it in Arizona to do is kayaking lessons. They did an audit because it wasn't really being watched, and they said, hey, let's figure out what people are actually doing. Kayaking lessons was one of the things. That's crazy that people took school vouchers and said, we're going to do kayaking lessons. That's crazy to me. But when we look at school choice, I'll use my area as an example. I have 2 school districts that come to mind that are decent school districts. You got Springfield School District, and then you have Marple Newtown School District. Those 2 school districts, I work at Delaware County Community College. Marple doesn't even, I'm using these 2 for a reason. Watch this. Marple doesn't see any merit to being a sponsoring school district to the community college that is right down the street from them. Springfield is a sponsoring district, but they're in court right now, and I'm not sure exactly where they are in the proceedings, to pull away from being a sponsoring district. Marple's ideology, from what I've heard, read, seen people talk, is our students go to 4-year institutions. Marple now, to give context, is always like top 5 in the state of Pennsylvania for school districts. So in their mind, we don't use Delaware County Community College enough to justify being a sponsoring district. Springfield is feeling the same way. Now, mind you, Springfield just built a really lavish high school building across from their old high school building. The taxes there done went up. I know a good number of people who moved from where I'm from to Springfield because the neighborhood started to change. And now they're kind of salty, from what I see, how people report on it, how they were upset, especially those who don't have children in the school district anymore, how those taxes got hiked up. Now, that's a whole nother thing. But you get what you know, everybody reaps what they sow. So, you left for a reason. And, now that reason is not enough to make you feel good about those taxes being raised. Anyway, to go forward, what I was trying to explain to my friend is, if you think a district like Marple Newtown or Springfield, where I've heard people explicitly say that they wish they could cut Morton, PA, which is a part of Springfield School District, at least part of it is. I think some of it might be Ridley, but some of it is Springfield School District. A good portion of Morton is Springfield School District. I've heard people say, I wish, I've seen people write and say, I wish we could cut Morton out of our district. And now, to give you a backdrop on Morton, from me growing up and knowing people who lived there, knowing people from there, my pop playing ball over there and everything like that, it's only like 2 minutes from where I live. That's how close Delaware County is too, by the way. I'm from Delaware County, for those who might not be from here but are watching, listening. I'm from Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And so, historically Republican, I don't have to go into all that. But my point is that Morton is like 2 minutes from where I grew up. Now it's probably like 3 minutes from where I live. So I've heard people say, I've seen people write, I wish you can cut Morton away from our school district. Morton is predominantly black, or at least half. But when I was growing up, that's where all the black folk who went to Springfield lived. Most of them, I should say. They lived in Morton. So you got that aspect. And the socioeconomic level is lower than the rest of Springfield. So there's two factors there that are being discriminated against in my observation. This is not guaranteed, but this is more of a cultural thing. This is why people can move the goalposts, because the school district can say, we're not coming against people who have a lower income or are black or minority in general. But when you talk about microaggressions and things like that and explicit, why do you want to cut Morton away? Why Morton? What did Morton do to anybody in Springfield? You know what I mean? So I've seen, heard, watched, read, whatever you could say, people talk like this. And they don't think you're paying attention. I'm a very intelligent man, and people see me as such. They see me as a respectable person. So they kind of look at me differently, right? So when they're around me, they talk and they think that, oh, because he's one of the educated kind of guys, let's just be explicit, he's one of the educated black men, he probably feels similar to us. Like he probably sees it the same way. He's educated, he's a working man, he's a family man, and he has certain values that we've watched his parents raise him with. So he probably agrees or doesn't have any harsh feelings. So a lot of people talk freely in front of me, and they talk like that. And they don't know until I push back that I don't agree, that I don't subscribe to the way of thinking. I'm not one of them black folk that think we should have to move away from our own people to feel successful, right? And I think that happens a lot. You get your education, you get these jobs, and your socioeconomic status changes. So you just think, I need to move to an area that reflects my socioeconomic status. But in doing that, you move away from your own people and you move with people who are not a part of your culture. And I was just talking to a guy in the barbershop, and I was talking to my bros through the DM. We got a DM chat because one of our bros don't have iPhone. And so we got to do it through there to make it more seamless and be able to share videos and memes and stuff like that. But it's all love. I ain't going to expose who it is, but he's the one that always try to call me out on some of my stuff too. Bro, it's cool though. You get me thinking, and you get me being able to explain things in a better way, because I'm picking up on maybe the way that you perceived it and realizing, like, if he perceived it that way, then there's a chance that somebody else might have perceived it that way too. So I actually appreciate it. Iron sharpens iron. And he's not doing it in a way where he disagrees with me. He's literally just sharing it to me like, this is what it could come off as. Like, he told me something that I said was anti-white. And I had to explain it to him and say, well, it's not anti-white, it's just pro-black. And so if a white person sees it as anti-white, it's because they look at me being pro-black as being me being against white people. And that's not the case. That's not how this works. I'm allowed to have pride in who I am and where I come from. I'm allowed to big up my people, even if you don't agree or think that they're upstanding people. I am allowed to think that they are. I'm allowed to do that, right? And all the people who look like me are my people, in the sense of, they come from a certain thing. Now, they can denounce their connectedness to the community. That's on them. But when it comes to certain things, even my brothers who have been in trouble with the law, right? Some of them, big stuff, they go away for a while. Others of them, little stuff that, because of the certain laws at the time that they did what they did, they got a significant amount of time. But fast forward, they begin to kind of re-examine some of these things. Some of it, like the drug stuff, like in Philly, like a certain amount is only looked at as a citation, as opposed to like criminal felony charges and stuff like that they used to do. So some of them got in trouble before that. And so I don't see those people as different than me. Now, there's a segment of our people, black folk, especially black men, who will say, distance yourself from those people. Those people are not us, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there's a reason why people selling drugs. There's a reason why people are violent. There's a reason. I don't care what nobody says. There's a reason. You might not think it's a good reason, but there is a reason why people do it. When people don't have hope, people don't believe that there's more to life than what they see around them, then they resort to what everybody else has always done. So, back to the point. We got to be careful, because with these school vouchers, with these school choices, school districts that are really good, like a Marple, like a Springfield, are not going to let those who are coming from poor school districts, like the school district I came from, and other school districts that line Chester Pike and McDade Boulevard and Lansdowne Ave and you name it. The areas where a lot of my people are from when we talk about Delco. You talk about the other areas, main line, the part of Delco that runs up to the main line. They're not letting people go to those schools from those districts that are failing. They're not in masses. You're going to get a few. They're going to comb through. They're going to find the most high flying, because you're not going to mess. Now, if they take away tests, state tests, those standardized tests, and they say, yeah, we're not doing it no more, we don't need to do that, we're just going to provide a very, very comprehensive, holistic education, and we're going to have school choice. Now you might see where school districts are like, oh, yeah, you can bring those students. But because the tests are attached to the prestige, when I say Marple is a top 5 school in PA every year, at one point it was 1 and 2, I think. And when I say that, it's because of the test that they get that rating. I'm sure there's other factors. It might be like college graduation rates and college acceptance, the types of schools that students are going to from there. There could be other factors, but I know the test is a big factor in how you get ranked in your state. And so they're not going to allow students coming from areas that are under-resourced, especially not students who have been through the district for a few years. Like your students at 5th or 6th grade, they don't want those students. They'll take kindergartners, because now this student is starting from the ground, and we can build them up in our foundation. We can control what happens with this student as far as the instruction that they get, the preparation they get for the test, academically for college. We can control it if we start them young. You're talking about students who are 5th, 6th grade. One, they can't take everybody. So what do you think is going to happen with school choice? Everybody's going to leave Southeast Delco School District and go to Marple and go to Springfield, go to Radnor, go to Conestoga. I don't understand why we think school choice is going to solve everything. Then pointing to Philly is probably the worst thing to do. Philly is one of the worst districts in the nation. So we're pointing to Philly as a good, it's school choice. It's exclusive, though. There's wait lists. So then what happens? Those students who are thinking, I'm going to go to a good school, you think everybody doesn't get to go to Central, right? That's not an open, it's a wait list. So they're not going to, it's not going to affect the critical masses. And so you still have a situation where now a few people are getting something that a lot of people aren't. That's the best way I could put it. And so just to kind of move on from that, that's why we got to be careful who we voting in, because if the wealthy elite get their way, they'll do away with major funding to public education if they have their way. I think her name was Betsy DeVos. She was under the Trump administration. She was like the Secretary of Education. She literally explicitly said that, and said it like it was a grand idea. Like, yeah, we need to get rid of public education and pour into private education. Now, on the surface, does it sound good? Yeah, I went to private school. So it feels like, well, Levi, you went to private school. I like to call out things that people could try to bring up. Well, Levi, you went to private school. You talk about how well it was for you, how you got to not only get a quality education, But then you also got to have quality experiences that you wouldn't have gotten in the public school. So why are you so against it? I'm against it for many reasons. One was what we talked about last episode, the whole identity thing, which I was able to kind of skate around because of my connection to Darby Township, or should I say the other side of Darby Township, where you got to cross over McDade and Chester Pike to get to. So it's two main roads that you cross over. I don't know how they even orchestrated all of this and how they changed it, but they did. So you cross over two major routes to get to the other side of Darby Township. But the other side of Darby Township by Hook Road, right? Or my connection to Careview Community Church, predominantly black, very educated pastor and ministers and pastors under our senior leadership, who gave me a rounding out of my view of what black culture was, right? So you have the hardworking, passionate, get things done Darby Township members who promoted education, who promoted discipline, who promoted pride in who we are as in Darby Township, but also as in black folk. Then you got Careview Community Church, my spiritual underpinning, my academic encouragement, my academic roots. Before I even needed to be in a classroom, I was in a classroom the whole time, but you know what I mean? Before anything, I was being educated. Education is not limited to a classroom. That's what we got to realize too. Education is not limited to a classroom. Just remember that. So don't ever let somebody tell you you're not educated because you don't have a degree. I want to encourage somebody out there right now. I got 3 degrees. I got an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's degree, right? And you rarely hear me call them out like that. And the reason why is because education is not limited to degree programs. Education is happening from utero all the way through the last day on this earth. Your dash is filled with education. So be encouraged. Some of you do need to go to school or go back to school and finish what you started. So I'm encouraging you that way too. But some of you all need to be confident in the fact that you are educated without a degree. That the education that you have will give just as much to a degree program as you will get from a degree program. Be encouraged. Be encouraged. But understand when these politicians are talking about school vouchers, when these politicians are talking about school choice, it's not on the surface. It feels like this is the best way to go. This is going to get our kids in a better district. But you don't understand. The wealthy elite make the decisions. They make the decisions. Point blank. We see it. That's what happened. The government is overrun by wealthy elites who are mainly vested into their personal, familial interest. So they will help policies go forward. They will fund candidates that will put policies forward that secure their legacy. That's it. And they will smile in our face, and they will keep us divided. They will make us go all over the place and crazy while they continue to build and build and build, become wealthier and all that. So just be careful, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. They've gotten far away from we the people. And the problem is we the people are so distracted with hate against one another for whatever reason, race, religion, ideology. We're so distracted that we can't even see the fact that they move from serving us. They say, public servants and all that stuff. That's what they're supposed to be, but they're not. They treat us like subjects, and we need to really, 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 really say, halt, stop. You've gotten far away from what this is supposed to be. You've deviated from what you were supposed to be doing. And now you've made it where instead of you serving us, we serve you. Look at how they use our taxes. They don't even ask us anymore what to do. They just are like, well, we're sending money over here. We're sending money over there. We're not doing that with the taxes. What? It's because we let them. So when people talk that nonsense about no more, we don't need more government, they're right, but they're saying it for the wrong reasons. And they don't realize that what they're talking about is going to serve the wealthy elite more than it's going to serve those who live middle class and lower. So you talk all that talk and you say, oh, too much government. Somebody said like more government is not the answer. I'm like, but that's exactly what Republicans right now, that's their platform. They're acting like they're tearing down stuff and saying, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. That's too much. That was an overreach. That was an overstep. That wasn't constitutional. We're taking it down. No more this, no more that. It wasn't constitutional. It sounds good. It feels like, oh, we're getting smaller government. That's what we want. First of all, that's the libertarians' whole thing. So if anything, we should be looking at the libertarians. If you're a person who wants smaller government, we should be looking at the libertarians and saying, who's a candidate out of there that we can roll with? Because they really want smaller government if you look at their platform and everything like that. But the Republicans, they don't want smaller government. They just want to get rid of the things that help the public. I'll leave it at that. You think about that. They want to get rid of the things that help the public, the mass public. They just put out ideas of you shouldn't be helping, the government shouldn't have any hand in helping people. Everybody got to take care of their own while they're getting all these tax cuts, these loopholes that help them pay less taxes. And they say it's going to go back into the people because we're going to be able to hire more people if we're not paying more taxes. That's not how it works. Or if they do, they exploit us so bad that they pay us so low and we end up in debt anyway, even if it's not student loan debt. We end up in medical debt with medical bills. We end up in consumer debt, right? So, it's a lot, but it's not.
This is a watershed moment for Palestine, for justice and for international law. Israel's occupation has been declared unlawful by the World Court, which has stipulated that it must be terminated completely and as rapidly as possible. The court also found that illegal Israeli occupation violates the UN Charter, human rights, and international humanitarian law. The court further unequivocally declared that all Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory are illegal and must be dismantled, and that all Israeli settlers must be evacuated. The court declared that Israeli illegal occupation not only violates but eviscerates the Palestinian people's right to self-determination in their own land, including the right to their own state. This ruling couldn't be more timely or sorely needed. The Palestinian people have endured unbearable suffering and injustice for decades. This ruling is a vindication of their steadfastness and perseverance. This right must no longer be denied or deferred.
To be clear, the International Court, The Hague, which is where they tried the Nazis, The Hague has officially declared Israel's occupation of Gaza and the West Bank to be criminal. They have deemed it apartheid, and they have said that it needs to cease immediately. This is not about anti-Semitism, though many will try to sway it that way. What this is about is liberation and humanity. I want you to watch the video again, because they're going to try to bury this. They're going to try to act like this hasn't happened. Not only has it happened, but there will be actions, because now any country that is supporting the occupation is now a criminal, which explains why that black lady was up in the UN the other day saying, oh, what's going on in Palestine is incredibly terrible. That's right. Which is why Joe Biden has to step down. Because Joe Biden is now an accessory. Yes, he has willfully supported war crimes and the unlawful occupation and apartheid of an entire people. Go sit your ass down. Free Palestine.
There you have it. There you have it. It's interesting because what she just showed was, I believe, an international court. So I'm not sure how international law works, so I'm not here to espouse on that. But if anybody who's in law and knows international law wants to chime in the comments or would like to come on the show and discuss law, I would love to have a lawyer come on. My cousin's a lawyer. Now, I'm not sure if she's would be willing to come on or feels like she would want to come on to discuss law at its extent. She did a wonderful job in law school, and I'm sure is a wonderful lawyer. You know what? I'll ask her. My cousin, she's definitely going to be able to come on to shed some light on things. Maybe not this, because international law is specific. So I know people have to study that specifically. She may know a little bit, but maybe she has some connection. So I'll stay tuned and we can talk about what that means. But I do want to say this is long overdue. This is long overdue. My Palestinian brothers and sisters have endured, like they said, for decades. This isn't just since October 7th. You know, the tricky thing about people is they always try to make something about the most recent egregious act, right? The problem is the way that October 7th, 2023 was responded to was like Amanda likes to say, a myriad of egregious acts have happened since October 7th. And guess who has carried them out? I won't even say it, because guess what? When you say it, what do they call you? Anti-Semitic. So all I want to say is free Palestine. He said immediately, as in now. I'm going to say yesterday. I'm going to say decades ago. Let them people have their land, be on their land, and let's stop playing games. Let's stop playing games. There's no way you saw or you see what's going on and you say, oh, this is perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with this. If you do, something wrong with your heart. Something wrong with your soul. Both have deteriorated. So it's overdue. About time. Free Palestine. Always. This is a symbolism of that. This. I'm not saying that this is them or whatever. This is a symbol of that. And I fully stand with Palestinians. I fully plan. And like I said before, why wasn't it a thing of like, can we live here too? Why did it have to be, we have to eradicate you? That doesn't make sense. Let's flip that logic on its head really quick and say, imagine if somebody said we need to eradicate all white people because of what the KKK did. That would be ridiculous. If you saw somebody planning and executing the plan to eradicate white people, like you tried to convince us that the Nation of Islam wanted to do, or the Black Panthers wanted to do. If you saw somebody actually doing that, because it hasn't happened, but propaganda, gets people like Malcolm X killed, gets people like Fred Hampton killed, Martin Luther King, like we talked about that several episodes ago. Y'all loved him, but as soon as he started talking poor people's campaign and we coming to get our resources, the money and the 40 acres and the mule and all that, as soon as he started exposing the fact that reparations wasn't an issue when it was given to certain people, all of a sudden, all that flipped. Oh, he's dangerous. We got to get rid of him. And y'all did, ultimately. The CIA did. So that's the thing is, they're trying to convince us that there were groups rising up to do those things, which was unfounded. Y'all treated, even Muhammad Ali, y'all treated him horribly. y'all hated him because he was outspoken, and all he was doing was giving an account. That's all he was doing. He was giving an account for what was actually happening. It's like somebody walk up and slap me in the face. I go and say, yeah, so-and-so slapped me in the face. And then everybody says, why are you talking about violence? Why are you saying that? Oh my goodness, I can't believe you would say something like that. I'm like, yo, he literally smacked me in the face on camera. Like, you saw it. It was on surveillance camera. You saw it. You got to stop talking about that stuff. That's not appropriate. That's literally what y'all did to Muhammad Ali. He shared exactly what happened. He shared coming back from, the Olympics, feeling like on high because he got gold. Goes to eat in a restaurant from where he's from. They tell him, you got to go to the back. You can't eat in here. N-word. You can't eat in here. Then he realized, like, wait a minute. I can go win a gold medal, be celebrated for that, but when I come back, still nigga. And that's the reality. So that's why he was so passionate about the things that he spoke about, that he was bringing to light. And people would, I don't know about that. Why do you got to be like that? What do you expect? One, I'm reporting on what happened. So get out my face. Or as my pop used to say, get away from me. Get away from me. It's my pop favorite line. Yo, I miss my pop. I miss my pop, man. This dude was hilarious by accident and on purpose. But that was one of his lines, get away from me. I think I'm going to adopt that line. Because sometimes you just got to look at somebody and say, get away from me. And sometimes my pop would add in with that dumb stuff. Get away from me with that dumb stuff. Sometimes you practice it. You practice it at home. But anyway, they painted the picture. So again, imagine if all white people were held accountable for the KKK, who y'all say is a small segment of the white population, right? It's just a small. The problem with that thinking, though, is it's a small segment of the population, but they represent the underbelly or the undertone. That's a better way of putting it. The undertone of the sentiments of that population. Now, are all white people bad? No. Not saying that. Are all white people racist? No. Not saying that. What I'm saying is there is an undertone or undercurrent, is another good way, that has the ideologies that the KKK carries out. And the reason why I know that is because the KKK is made up of regular people. I love this guy. One clip I'm going to show next. This guy, he was talking about the Heritage Fund and Foundation, and he was talking about Project 2025, of course, and things like that. And he was saying the problem with painting people who think the way that those people think as monsters is we're not realizing that they're just human and that these are people who you interact with every day, right? And he's right. He's right. They're lawyers. They're police officers. They're firefighters. They're teachers. They are Dunkin' Donuts workers. They are McDonald's workers. They are administrators in schools, CEOs. They are CFOs. They are bankers. They are mortgage brokers. They are real estate agents. They are, you name it. They may even help you. But back in the day, more so, somewhat now, they've kind of made a resurgence in certain places. And you see the people walking around with like the white, almost like ski mask on. They gentrified the Pooh Shiesty mask. I just thought about that. I saw a video of these guys jumping out of a U-Haul. They had on white Pooh Shiesty masks. Them mugs gentrified the Pooh Shiesty mask. We can't have nothing. We can't have nothing. They gentrified the white. They went far too, because they not only did they change the they changed the hood to a white Pooh Shiesty mask, gentrifying the mask. Oh my goodness. So now the young bulls, or the YNs as they like to call them, and them people who are probably KKK members, Proud Boys, any of those groups you can think of, they probably come from those groups and have come together in a coalition or a conglomerate of sorts. And now they done gentrified the Pooh Shiesty man. We can have nothing. They want to move back in the hood, push us out to the burbs, squeeze us into a certain part of the burbs, and now they done took the Pooh Shiesty man. So the YNs, y'all got to give the YNs more credit. You want to know why? Because they influence all the people that stand for whatever, the far right, conservatives and stuff stand for, and jumping out of them U-Haul trucks. They all got Pooh Shiesty masks on. They done gentrified it. Hey, all the YNs, y'all influential. And it goes on. So do y'all thing. Do y'all thing. And y'all can look up what YNs are. The YNs be out here going crazy. But, some of that is a symptom of a greater issue. And that's even another topic in itself. Might have to get someone who would be considered a YN, but who I see as level-headed to come on the show and talk with me about the state of the young bulls. I'm going to call them young bulls. Stop saying YNs. But gentrified the Pooh Shiesty mask is crazy. Anyway, like I said, if we held all white people responsible and said, let's not even take it to be gruesome. We just going to lock up white people when we see them. Treat white people like we treat black people with the stop and frisk stuff. Oh, you must be one of them KKKs. You must be one of them Proud Boys. You must be one of them. Yeah, and my Latino brothers and sisters who subscribe to that, who identify more your European heritage than you do with your African roots. Y'all too. So we'll see y'all. No. We think you one of them. You know what I mean? What they say on Bad Boys, you one of them young Thundercats. You one of them them young Thundercats, huh? We should start hitting them up like that. Every single white person. Oh, that's not me. You look like them. You look like them. You flying an American flag. That's what they do. You got the "Don't Tread on Me" flag out. That's what they do. Oh, and don't have a Confederate flag. Oh, we on you. We on you. We can't, You're done. Straight up locked up. Right in prison. No reasonable doubt. I'm just saying, y'all wouldn't go for it. Y'all really wouldn't go for it, trust me. That's what it's like when you do that to those who are Palestinian and in Palestine and Gaza. When you do that and you say, well, because Hamas did this on October 7th, it's an awful logic. It's awful logic. Let's make it a little less race related. Say you got a young adult son. He's out doing this stuff and da-da-da-da. He smacks somebody. I'm trying to keep it as light as possible. He smacks somebody, runs back to the house. Now that person brings, say in your house there's only 4 people. Mother, father, your young adult son who's college age, and their sibling. That people brings 10, 15 people to your house and slaps everybody in the house. Are you going to think that's fair? I'm keeping it light. What I'm saying is way lighter than what they did to Palestinian people. You going to think that's fair? I'm just talking fair now. But again, even somebody slaps you, that's assault. So are you going to say, well, because he went and smacked one of their family members, it's okay for them to bring 15 people and just like have a smack, just smack me, just smack everybody in the house, beat everybody else in the house up because of what he did? No, you're not going to say, oh, well, all's fair. My son shouldn't have did that. Yeah, that might be true. Your son shouldn't have did that. But we're also not going to justify holding a whole family responsible for one member of the family. Does it happen? Yes. Is it justifiable? Absolutely not. There's no justifying that. So, with that being said, You can't hold a whole ethnic group responsible for a piece of that ethnic group's action. Then to go even deeper, and the last thing I'll say, because I guarantee somebody's going to pinpoint this and say, that's anti-Semitic. To go deeper, what came first? The egg or the chicken? What came first? The ideology that would lead to a Hamas, or the oppression that came from Israel towards Palestine? So that's something to think about. That's a question. I'm not answering it, but I just want to know, some people might feel like, no, Hamas was a thing, or that kind of thinking was a thing before Israel did whatever they did. And I know some of you are going to say, well, that's their promised land. I don't know. To me, you could look in the Bible, you could say such and such, you could try to pinpoint to these things and say, yeah, it is, it's their land or whatever. But there's a lot that happens with the Israelites in the Bible. There's a lot of things that they do and don't do that are very interesting, to say the least. But I want to move to
because of this trend, people are out here telling y'all in waves about how their 34-year-old grandfathers basically kidnapped their 14-year-old grandmothers. And these are the relationships and the time periods that y'all idolize and try to use to drive discourse about conduct in relationships today. Well, back in the day, the man paid for everything all the time. They were dating children. But my parents did it like this. Yeah, and statistically speaking, your parents are either divorced or unhappy. Okay, so humans haven't figured out marriage yet. So you can't blame a couple that doesn't want to play the patriarchy cherry picking game where we both pick the thing that disproportionately helps us and instead treats each other equitably, not equally, equitably. In many ways, we've confused men historically paying for everything as benevolence, but the truth is it was a stipend for captivity. That shit was hush money to stay silent and subservient in households that were riddled with toxic patriarchy and gender norms. It's perfectly fine to say that you want some of that in your relationship. You're allowed to want whatever you want. You just can't act like somebody's crazy for wanting to switch it up. Look, freedom has a correlative relationship with autonomy and responsibility. When freedom increases, autonomy and responsibility increases, and women are as free in the world today as they ever have been. What? We've got a long ways to go. But I'm talking about the correlative relationship. As freedom increases, autonomy and responsibility will increase. That's a good thing. Grandma couldn't legally file for divorce. Your mom might not have been able to legally open a bank account. I don't want them back in the day relationships. Stop acting like you do.
Yeah. He said it plain. I agree with a lot that he said. You all think that what you're asking for is so natural that it's just, this is the way things were naturally supposed to be. This is when America was at its best. When women were subservient to men. When children were under major control. The thing is that y'all not thinking about is what he said. He said your 34-year-old grandfather was marrying your 14-year-old grandmother. That was commonplace. And some would say, well, because back then they believed that it's because that was the best time for females to be having babies in the sense of younger. Like he said, y'all don't really want that. I don't think y'all do. I don't think y'all understand. That was a necessity because, like somebody in the comments pointed out, women at that time weren't even allowed to have bank accounts, right? Women, in many cases, weren't even considered for employment and things like that. Women didn't have their own property. Women didn't get inheritance. So if they came from a family, and especially if they had brothers, everything was left to the brothers. So when you think and consider that, and you're like, oh, wow, wait. So they weren't getting anything handed to them. They weren't going to get the land. They weren't going to get the cattle. They weren't going to get any of those things. In fact, if you take it far enough back, men had to come with those things to even be able to marry a woman. So there's that too. But that's not even the point. The point is what you're looking for is not happening because we're not in the same situation. Women work. women are actually at the top of the list when it comes to most educated. So they're eligible for positions that are high ranking positions. You know, we're talking upper management, we're talking directors, we're talking VPs, we're talking CEOs. Women can do that now. So you expecting a woman who's as dynamic as Jeff Bezos to be as under submission or to submit in the same way that your great-great-grandmother submitted, yet she didn't have access to banking. She didn't have access to property. She didn't have access to a job. She didn't have access to any power in society outside of what she could do at the house. You're expecting them to submit the same way, yet they are different in many ways. Education being one, employment being another, the ability to maintain property, to purchase and maintain property themselves. Women just are allowed, let's just start there, allowed to do a lot more than they were when your great-great-grandmother was married to your grandfather, who was 20 years older than her, and she was still finishing up school, high school, that is, not even college. So you're looking for a relationship that would need a power dynamic. And once you strip away economic, once you strip away position, so like a woman could typically in most fields hold the same types of position that a man can hold, as far as, like I said, upper management, leadership, and things like that, senior leadership. Once you take those things away, you're not really left with much. The problem is not women, not modern women, right? Just to kind of stem off that conversation that he was having, it's not modern women. That's not the problem. The problem is traditional men in a modern era. We're in a modern era where, one, we're in an economy, unless you are like Jeff Bezos, I wouldn't say that far. Unless you are making six figures, and I'm talking well into six figures, like 250, 300,000 a year, 500, up to $1 million or more a year, you're not in position to take care of all of the needs financially. And that's not a bad thing. It's an opportunity. And I would like to invite men to an opportunity of being a comprehensive man. Go get the book Battle Cry by Jason Wilson. Go get Cry Like a Man by Jason Wilson. Those are two books, good books to start with. Learn about being a comprehensive man. Learn about providing more than just money to your family or into your relationships, right? Your friends and your significant other. Learn about being more. Learn about being vulnerable. Free yourself from emotional incarceration. Request love, receive love, and give love. Kill off a lot of the ideas that you've committed to that come from the old school. You could still be a man. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with masculinity, but there is a such thing as toxic masculinity. There is. Somebody try to perpetrate, being a leader of your family is not toxic. Nobody said that, sir. Being a good, fair, loving, kind, generous leader is not what anybody is pointing to when they say toxic masculinity. Being a controlling, being emotionally unavailable, being brutal, being a iron fist militant leader, yes, that can most certainly. You don't have to be militant to be disciplined. A lot of people I know, some of y'all have been raised by military men. And everybody kind of has that same story. I know they loved me, but they was a mean cuss. And you better have it tight and right. You better have the boots shined. You better have the bed made. All good things to commit to. So I'm not coming against those ideas. I'm not coming against those ideas. It's how you present them. Like, I have a 4-year-old, and back in the day, the way he acts, it would have been a lot of corporal punishment. But I realized that that's not the best way, one. And at 4, scientifically, I just saw information. They don't really start to really wake up until about 7. So anytime between 0 and 7, yes, you're repeating yourself a lot. And they shouldn't necessarily be penalized for having to repeat yourself. I think being raised the way I was raised, where you had to get in line so quickly, you forget, like, wait a minute, that's not normal. Like my pastor said to me one time, it's not normal to tell an 8-year-old, stop all that crying, suck it up. That's not normal. And I didn't think about that, but that's how I was raised. So I learned. I dried my tear ducts. I pulled it together for the most part, unless I had a meltdown. Sometimes I have a meltdown because you're letting it build up. You're letting everything well up until you can't hold it no more, and then the water gates open because you can't control it at that point. But for the most part, I kept them boom, boom, boom. Did nobody ever see me cry? And if they did, I was embarrassed. Not anymore. You need a release more often than we are encouraged to as men. But like I said, you don't want them relationships. I want somebody that sees my value in their life. And I'll just use myself as an example. I love that my wife doesn't need me from a sense of to survive. My wife would do just fine financially. But the reality is I love the fact that she wants me in her life, and that the need isn't unhealthy. It isn't like because I can't make my own money, or because I can't own property, because I don't have any power without you standing next to me. It's like, no, I'm powerful without you. Wouldn't you say, I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we're together? I think that's how it goes. But we're a force together, and that's the reality of it. And we both acknowledge that. She makes me better. I make her better. That's the reality of it. But the way some of you men are talking is like, I need her to need me. I need her to have me in the primary seat all the time and need me to be there. And if not, then she's not honoring me as a man. Newsflash, my brother, and this is the last thing I'm going to say to you on this topic, on this episode. I'm going to still be on you. I'm on y'all because y'all weird. Y'all don't look at the whole situation. But, sorry, I ain't mean to call y'all weird, but I still love y'all. But the reality is, stop it. Go get some help. In the words of Michael Jordan, most of y'all go. Stop it. Go get some help. But anyway, moving right along. Still talking about manhood and all that good stuff.
Now so insecure about their masculinity that they are paying $18,000 for an alpha male boot camp. This is what's known as the modern day night project, where they transform boys to men. Your family deserves the best version of yourself as a leader, a husband, and a father. Nothing screams hardcore alpha male like the upper middle class neighborhood of Chino Hills, California. It is basically a 75-hour military boot camp simulation where people pay thousands of dollars to get tortured and waterboarded. And at the end, there's some sort of graduation for the surviving men, and they get to paying someone to make you an alpha male has to be the most beta shit I've ever heard. The most hilarious thing about this is the price of $18,000, and of course they try to justify it and like make you feel bad in some sort of Instagram post. They try to use your insecurity and vulnerability against you. They're like, oh, you're not a man enough? Of course you can't afford $18,000. I knew you wouldn't be able to afford it, dude. That's why you're a failure in your career, your wife's cheating on you, and the guys are like at home being like, he's right, bro. I gotta save up for 3 years to afford this. This is the one thing that's gonna save me. I can't stand it anymore. My wife and the trainer.
Yo, stop it. Go get some help. That's all I got to say about that one. Say no, I'm gonna go in. But really though, y'all need to stop it, yo. An alpha male boot camp. First of all, an alpha male boot camp is crazy. It's insane. You said an alpha male boot camp. That's ridiculous. So you're going to go somewhere, like they said, to face some type of punishment. Not only that, another video I saw of this, I thought this was funny the way it was presented. Another video I saw of this, they said that there's like a kid version or like a father-son version. So you're going to subject your child to this. This is traumatizing to you. But now you're bringing your child into it because you want to make them an alpha male. First of all, everybody's not supposed to be alpha at every time. You have scenarios where you might be alpha, but when you come into a group, there's always going to be somebody who's the leader, because that's all that alpha really means. Who's the leader? You can't have multiple primary leaders. You can have leaders within a group. You have multiple leaders within a group, but there has to be a primary leader, or the direction of the group will be lost quickly, because every leader is going to have a different idea for which way they should go. It's always important to have one person who's the head be able to say, okay, let me take everybody's idea and come up with the best idea for the group together, collectively, bringing everybody together to do that. But to do this is just trauma inducing. All you're doing is saying, oh, I'm paying $18,000 to go be traumatized. That's literally what you're doing when you do this. And so stop the nonsense, get some help, get some therapy, try to figure out why it's so important for you to be alpha male, why you have to be the alpha, right? And so for you to be the alpha, somebody else has to be the beta. So why is it important for you to be the alpha at every turn? Why can't you just be you? Why can't you just be a good leader? Why does it have to go to this extreme? What are you preparing for doing something like this? Except for signing up to get robbed. Because I can assure you, you might think those guys who are training you are alpha males, but if they would take $18,000 from you with the idea that they can teach you how to be an alpha male, they ain't no alpha male. They're a con artist. They're a rat. And that's how you should start looking at these type of people. You a rat, taking advantage of people. Because the only reason why people question whether or not they're man enough is because of insecurities that are preyed on by these internet personalities that tell you that because you don't think, you don't group think what a man is supposed to be and how a man is supposed to operate, that you are less than a man. Then they double back. So this is the thing. Y'all got to be careful. People will spit these ideologies at you. Keep doing it. Then they'll say, well, so they create the problem. Because you might have been fine until you heard somebody say that how you operate is not manly. So they create the problem by promoting, oh, you're not manly because you don't do X, Y, Z, or you do X, Y, Z, so you're not manly. But I know how to be a man. And it could be certain things that stick out. Somebody who's brash, somebody who is physically aggressive, built in shape. I'm thinking of a guy like Andrew Tate. And I know some of y'all are going to start to say, this dude says Andrew Tate almost every episode. But anytime we talk about manhood, we talk about the state of manhood right now. He's one of those voices. You look at a guy like him, he talks loud, he presents as confident, he's in shape, which is one of the primary things that he kind of puts out there as far as being a man and being in shape. And I agree, you should be in shape. I should be in shape. I'm not in the shape that I should be in. I need to get in shape. But I don't think that makes me less of a man. That's the thing. So we create the problem with the narratives and the ideology we put out there. Then we write books and hold workshops and conferences, all to make money. And y'all don't realize that that's what they're doing. You are a dollar sign to them. They've put this stuff out there, created this. We consult. Oh, we're going to be your consultant. I'm going to turn you into a man. I'm going to make sure you become a man. I seen this one video. This dude did like a sled push on a guy, and he's like, "I am a man. I am a man." You probably saw it, because that's gonna be in somebody's algorithm. I'm a man. I'm a man. And he was like going in, and I was like, "There's some merit to doing something like that," but I assure you, he paid an absurd amount of money to do that, and he left there feeling good. But he's gonna hit a wall at some point. He's gonna be like, "Man, I thought I conquered this idea that I wasn't man enough. I wasn't assertive enough as a man. I didn't stand on anything. I didn't have a backbone. But now all of a sudden I'm right back here. I thought that would fix me." They know that ain't gonna fix you, because it's deeper than just I don't stand up for myself physically. I don't push back on anything as a man. It's deeper than that. So don't let these people take your money. You could be a man without going to these boot camps. You could be a man without being physically aggressive all the time. All right? Stop it. Get some help. All right, now this next part. This guy I know, his name's Jamil. Dude can hoop. I want to show a highlight from a game he had recently, I think in the last week or so. Dude be getting busy. That's all I can say. I really like his game. He's just savvy. That's all I can say. And he's just as dominating as he is graceful. So dude is finesse and power wrapped in one. So you're gonna have some highlights here where he is showing his physical, ability. Boy can hoop. That's all I'm gonna say. Boy can hoop. Shout out to Mill. He doing his thing. Told you, equal parts power and grace. Dude got it. He could just hoop. He just got a knack for the game. Y'all gotta watch his highlights, man. Well, outside of being a pro, he might be one of my favorite players. I ran into him when I was working at a college, at a university. And I enjoy all his highlights. I might have to reach out to him and see if I can get a schedule to, if he's in a league or something, to go check him out in person, because boy, he really good hoop. He's a cool dude. I worked with him for a little bit. But yeah, his game, I like his game. It's so, he like, I'm imagining being his coach, and it's like, he's the type of player, if I need 30 or more, I believe he can go get it. If I need him to get rebounds and facilitate, but also get like 15, 20, he can do it. He's that good. And he just has, I watch him. He has such a presence from when I'm watching him. This is not this clip that I've seen. I watch a lot of his stuff he puts up. He has a presence. But he also has the IQ. You can see. And IQ is we're not just talking about, when we say IQ in basketball, at least me, I'm not just talking about his ability to facilitate, his ability to score. I'm talking about everything, right? The full package. Being able to get into space so he can create. That's a part of the IQ. That's the stuff that doesn't get on the stat sheet, because nobody's going to say, oh, he got to this spot. That's a stat. He got to this spot. That's a stat. But when you know basketball, if you played it, I played it all my life. I've coached it. And you see when players are able to get to certain spaces that causes the defense to react in a certain way, this is what I'm talking about. Even right here, he got into a certain space with this defender, and the reaction that the defender gave was detrimental to their job, which was to stop him from scoring. He was able to get in, and then using his size, right? He was able to use his size in a lot of these plays, but also, like I said, finesse or grace. He's setting them up right here. Lost a little bit right here, but using his size, got into a jam, but he was able to say, you know what, this dude's small. That's stuff I like. I like that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? My pop, he ain't like all that, all this and all that. I like that kind of stuff, and that's the type of stuff, the flavor that I got from playing in township. It's okay to have a little fun. It's okay. And it's basketball. Sometimes we go a little overboard. We talk a little bit too crazy. We show off a little bit too much. But basketball has a way of humbling you and bringing you back to earth sometimes, right? So you're going to have a game like this where you can't stop me. And I like it. I like that kind of stuff. That's flavor to me. That's what you want, right? We ain't just cooking with salt and pepper. You feel me? That's how I look at it. But when I look at it, and I'm really describing it a lot because the people who are only going to listen to this are not going to see the clip that I showed. So it's important that I actually explain what I'm seeing so that they can get in on at least knowing what I'm talking about. But Mill, if you see this, keep it up, man. Them highlights is it. I'm gonna have to come check out a game at some point too. There's some other players too. I'm gonna try to do highlights like this. I'm gonna do some business stuff. You got a business, you want me to shout you out? The first one's on the house. Second one, I had to draw up a little contract for promotion, right? That'll help me out. You would have to use it for marketing anyway. So if I'm giving you, a little trial, so maybe not just the first one, but if I give you a trial run for a few episodes where I'll shout you out without charging you, and then you can see if you feel like that's enough. You can write me a script. Now, if we're getting into the whole write me a script thing, then I'm going to need to charge. But there's some businesses that all businesses, ain't created equally. So it's going to be some businesses that my family doing that might get a little more play and shout out even without a setup. But we can work something out. I'm not trying to beat nobody over the head, but I also want to increase and expand this. So if I can get to promoting your stuff, which gets me access to your audience or your consumers so that they come in, start giving me more views, subscriptions, and all that, one hand wash together. So let's talk about it. Well, that does it for this episode. I appreciate you for tuning in. As always, it is your host, Tuck. Now, I'm on Fresh Perspective Podcast with Ray. We got an episode that's coming out pretty soon. Probably going to drop the same day as today. Go over to the Fresh Perspective Podcast. You'll see it. Our logo is the Beanie Bowl. It's a dark background. It says Fresh Perspective. Has Beanie Bowl on it. Bowl with the beanie and the beard and the sunglasses. Check that out. Please comment, share, subscribe, like, all the things that create or generate activity on all of my platforms. That way I can grow and expand. Please interact with me. Please reach out if you want to be on the show. Let me know what you would want to talk about. Let me know how you want to do it. Might bring you in studio here, just my third floor. Or I might be able to travel with you. This equipment is not too bad to tote around. So I could get to you if need be. So just let me know and I'll see you soon.